This week, my wife and I decided to go see Evil Dead Rise, and it was kind of a last-minute decision, really. It was a $5 Tuesday at the movie theater. My wife was kind of looking for something, and didn't really know what to pick, but she's a fan of the original Evil Dead films, as am I. Let me just say, I'm not a huge fan of the horror franchise. Like, that's not me. I'm not a horror guy. Do I enjoy the classic horror films of old? Do I have an appreciation for great horror? Absolutely. But I'm not one of those people who just has to see every B horror film that gets put out. That's just not me. But I can appreciate a good horror film. We get to the theater, and the movie starts, and right off the bat, there's some little tiny like callbacks to the original right from the beginning. They're at a cabin, but then when what happens at the beginning, you're like, oh, this is clearly not who this story is about. And then you get taken back in time to see how this story all started. And one of the things I really enjoyed about this film is that while paying homage to the original Evil Dead, you don't need to have seen it or have any experience with the franchise whatsoever to appreciate this film. And that, I love that, because it's been a long time since I saw Evil Dead. And I knew watching this film, which is more of a reboot or an additional story, you could look at it that way. That it's like that other thing also happened, but then this happened as well at some other time, modern day. And I enjoyed that about it, and it felt connected enough to the original film. Like, they stayed true to all the hallmarks of like the Book of the Dead and the book being made from human flesh, and like all of the things that like were stated in the original film, and the incantations. I love that they stayed true to all that while bringing us a fresh new cast, brand new characters, and a modern day version of the story that takes place in an apartment building. Like a packed, I don't know if it's packed, but a lived-in apartment building. And I don't know, that added something to it, because the original Evil Dead is like they're out in a very 80s trope, but out in a cabin away from society, kind of stuck there, while this family ends up being stuck and basically prisoner in their own apartment building. So I thought that was great. I thought that the way that they found the book in an old bank vault underneath the apartment building that had been built over it, I loved all that. I love that they, like I said, brought back a lot of the stuff from the original, but also gave us this fresh perspective and didn't reference the old films directly to where you needed to have seen them or needed to have known what happened before this. All that was fantastic. I love that it's not connected, but if you're looking for it, it is connected. Got to give praise to all the actors and actresses in this. They were actually really well acted. That's one of the things that I don't like about a lot of the horror franchise. And there's a lot to be said for it, because I feel like the horror franchise, or the horror genre, gives actors an opportunity that maybe other genres do not. And meaning, usually horror films are a little lower on the budget side. They're willing to give actors a chance. Sometimes a lot of times they're indie films, and so they're looking for lower paid, sometimes even non-paid actors and extras. And I think it presents a great opportunity for up-and-coming actors. However, that also tends to give you some questionable acting performances in a lot of the horror films. So, that being said, I actually think that this was cast really well. I think that everyone did a great job. Like I said, I love the modern day perspective. It's like this modern family that was dealing with the mother and father splitting up, and the estranged sister coming back for a visit. It just presented a more modern story, and it wasn't that classic 80s teenagers in the woods type story, and I really enjoyed that. It also gave a family dynamic. It was a mom, it was an aunt, it was kids of all ages, and I especially love that even though it was so family driven, this was not a family film at all. This was beautifully gruesome, gory, and violent. Really kind of a love letter to the horror films of my youth, the stuff that I really like. I like, if you're gonna do horror, I like it to be really terrible, right? That's scary to me. That's fun to me. It's like if you're gonna do a martial arts film, I want it to look real. I want the fight sequences to look real. If you're gonna do horror, I want the effects to look real. Someone gets stabbed through the hand, I want it to look like somebody's getting stabbed through the hand. Also, I want to see some creative ways for people to get injured or die. I wouldn't say there's anything bad about this movie, actually. It's not, like I said, it's not my genre. And if it was my genre, maybe it would be like the greatest thing I'd ever seen. But I thought it was, as a movie, pretty damn good. Pretty damn good film, but it didn't blow me away. I liked what it did, and I especially liked that it was extremely gruesome, violent, graphic, and the lead actress who plays Ellie was downright evil, right? She embodied this demonic character so well. She was phenomenal. Like, what a creepy ass smile she has. And obviously the makeup and effects in this were just fantastic. One of my favorite things about it is that it didn't have a happy ending. I like when horror films leave it open, like, oh, some more bad shit happened, From the very beginning of this movie, you know that there's no happy ending to this thing. And I love that. So this whole time, you're like, no, nobody's getting out of this. Like, maybe some people get out alive, sure, but this demon isn't going away. They're not putting this putting this thing back in a box, right? Not gonna happen. The camera work, especially in this film, was very creative. Very creative. They showed things from angles I did not expect, and that I frankly have never even seen in films before. Just really unique, and they're usually pretty quick takes, pretty quick shots, but very unique perspective shots. Like, I can't even, honestly, there were so many in it that I can't even pinpoint one to tell you to look out for, but there were a lot of times where the camera was shooting from a place that you would not expect the camera to be shooting from. And I just thought that to be a really cool way to show like a different perspectives throughout the film. Anyway, like I said, for a horror film, really fucking great. For a film overall, I thought it was okay. It did everything I want a horror film to do. It's hard for something to genuinely scare me. I wouldn't say this thing actually scared me, but it was creepy as hell. That was one of the only things that maybe was a little bit drawback in this film, is that there was some ridiculous kind of dialogue in it at times, really like cheesy dialogue. But it wasn't enough to ruin the movie for me, and like I said, overall, I really enjoyed the time I had. My wife really enjoyed it as well. We discussed it afterwards, like, yeah, there was some cheesy stuff, but overall, a fun-ass time in the theater. And one of the things my wife liked about it most is that it wasn't long. Like, I take her to see all these films that are like 3 hours long, 2 hours and 45 minutes, and it's like, God, she's like, why is every movie so long now? So, movies used to be 90 minutes when we were growing up. And this one was right there. I think it was right around 90 minutes. I can't even remember exactly, but it was definitely around the hour and a half mark. And she especially appreciated that. So it's good. There's no time wasted. I mean, it gets right into it. There's no scene that you go, they could have taken that out. Like, it's edge to edge, packed with story, and then you're out. And I love it for that. Anyway, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know. I know I'm a little late on this. It's been out for a few weeks. But like I said, it was a last-minute decision. We weren't even originally going to see this. This isn't something we had our eye on. It was just something we decided last minute to go do. And so here's my review on it. But yes, let me know what you think in the comments below, or if you're listening in podcast form, you can reach out on Instagram or Twitter at RealBrettScott. And yeah, let me know what you thought of it. Maybe some of you actual horror buffs can tell me if this holds up in the horror genre. If you enjoy videos or podcasts like this where I talk about entertainment, pop culture, that sort of thing, then please subscribe for more, or favorite or follow Daily BS Podcast. And if you do decide to stick around, then I'll talk to you all again very soon.